One is about corporate immunology. And we all know that the human body is subject to attacks from visible things and invisible things. Visible things like food poisoning, sunshine, weather conditions are known. But invisible things, which is microbes, bacteria, viruses, funguses, are not seen. And so we are usually ill prepared for it. So while we are all saying that today COVID-19 is causing us a lot of distress, when I read about what happened in 1918 when the pandemic flu came and 50 million people died all over the world, where India was number one in, unfortunately, the number of deaths, I say this is history repeating itself. And I then thought of the company as a human being and said, are there invisible things attacking the company? And it struck me that there are invisible things attacking the company. See, the visible things attacking the company are competition, your strategy versus somebody else's strategy, R&D findings, getting orders. These are all visible things. And if you miss an order, you recognize it immediately and you can do something about it. But invisible things are things that get into your body of the company in this case, and then they slowly start eating up the innards of the company. And how do you immunize a company? Just like how do you immunize a human body? I came across the writings of a person called, I think, Professor Michael Watkins. And Professor Michael Watkins had studied immunology, and then he became a management consultant. And I think he works in one of the consulting companies. And here's what I understood, that there are three layers of the human immune system. The outermost layer is the physical system. You know, your skin, for example, occupies several square meters of area. And the skin is a barrier to outside things that try to get you. And so, you know, bacteria or virus or toxins or poisons, the skin blocks them to some degree. But then viruses are so small, they can get in through your nose, they can get in through your eyes, they can get in through your ears. So the skin is not a perfect barrier. If something gets past the physical barrier, you come to the second, which is called an innate barrier. What is inherent? Which is the genetic disposition of the person. So some people are more easily prone to diabetes, some to hypertension, and they become more vulnerable than others. So there is the innate layer, which is something you may not be able to do too much about, but if you know that you have an innate layer which is weak on some grounds, you can try to protect yourself by building immunity. And then below the physical and the innate layer comes the adaptive layer. The adaptive layer is when your body generates antibodies and builds systems to deal with that. If it succeeds, you kill the bug. If it does not succeed, then you get affected and then you get treatment. Now, the same thing happens in a company. The company also has things that are attacking it. And I said, what is the equivalent? Physical layer, the innate layer, and the adaptive layer. I suddenly found my sort of brain light up, because those three layers are in the control of every senior executive in the company. It is not in the hands of the top leadership or the HR department. It's the hands of every leader in a company. So the physical layer is, I call it the passion layer. Because if you add the three up, it comes to saying your best vaccination to immunize the company is the people power vaccination. And like they're testing COVID vaccines all over the world, this is a well-tested thing, that people power is the best vaccination for the company, for the corporate body. And the outermost layer of this is what I call people passion. It's like the skin of the body. You can see it's visible. A highly engaged workforce. People who will speak up for the company if somebody says something bad about it. People who work together and emotionally they guard the company against unwelcome attackers. In fact, sometimes they may be too passionate. If an outsider is recruited into the company with a different cultural background, he may find life a bit difficult. He has to adapt to the company's way of working. And all these are measured by professionals through an index called the employee engagement. And it is measured by, I think, Towers Perrin or some HR company, and it's published every year. And when I got to learn about the existence of such a index, I found that in almost every country, the employee engagement index for the country as a whole is gradually declining. It's not collapsing, it's declining very gradually. And when I was still in service in TATA's, it struck me that this is something we don't measure. We measure parts per million of quality, we measure customer service index, but we never measured, I'm talking of 2003-4. And we started measuring employee engagement in each company. And we tried very hard not to use the employee engagement data to judge people, because then it becomes like a chore. You have to sort of get good employee engagement scores. Be nice to everybody in the week when the survey is being done. That's not what we were looking for. But people gradually got educated to say that I may be delivering results, but if the employees in my department are not engaged, it will reflect in their motivation and their passion. And people started saying, why? Because everybody thinks he's a damn good leader. I mean, I've never met any manager who didn't think he was a good leader. And he got a very clear idea of who was not so good leaders as well. When the Taj attack happened, the terrorist attack in 2008, it was a terrifying experience. I mean, and although I was not directly involved in the Taj as a director of the company, I was very much around. And I must say, when I saw the response of the employees, it was mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. The way people went out of their way, saying this is our temple and somebody's attacked it. We unfortunately lost several lives, and a memorial has been set up for them at the entrance of the Bombay Taj. But more importantly, their actions as citizens of Mumbai when this happened and their degree of passion that they demonstrated was to be seen. And this is what I mean by passion. This is the outermost layer. I could say with my hand on my heart that the passion that Taj employees showed at that time demonstrated beyond any doubt of any numbers of employee engagement, that they were a highly engaged group of people who were working for the Taj. That is one of its great strengths. So that's the first layer. The second layer that you have is what I call the culture. The human immune system has this gene layer where it's the culture of the company. So this is the one where if somebody is not looking like us, hamare jaise nahi hai. This works out in politics also, where by community or by caste or by religion or by color of skin, in various nations they make distinctions. One of the things that I noticed, for example, is for a long time when I was still in Hindustan, even that was 25 years ago, people used to make fun of us saying, oh, you studied engineering, you studied MBA, and what are you doing? You're selling soap. But during this COVID, the fact that soap is central to fighting COVID-19, the fact that soap has saved more lives in the last 100 years than any drug or pharmaceutical. I mean, I'm making a big statement, but I'm making this statement after researching World Health Organization statistics. Soap singly has saved more lives than all the drugs put together. And it gives a great sense of pride to a person who's working in a soap company, and my old company, Hindustan Unilever and Procter & Gamble and others, can take great pride. Now, this is what builds culture, these sorts of ideas, that all the pharma companies put together have achieved less than what soaps and toilet cleaners have done. So the importance of hygiene. So that's the second layer. And the third layer, which is the adaptive layer, which is when the attack has got into the body of the company, through the layers, the first two layers, then it becomes very important to generate antibodies. And I found academic work done by Professor Barbara Fredrickson. She has learned to measure positivity and negativity. And she says if the ratio of positivity to negativity is 3:1, then you got a healthy company, a very adaptive company. But when it declines below 3, you have to think about how to deal with it. So I found these as very interesting ways in which general managers of departments and companies can think about the 3 adaptive layers, the immune layer and the innate layer and the physical layer in running their department. Of course, the HR department can no doubt help you to do these things, measure it, get consultants, but ultimately you must want to do it if you're a general manager. And if you really want to protect your company or your division or your factory, then these are things worth doing. Generate and nurture the people power. Because once it has hit you, once a COVID-19 equivalent hits the company, uh, after that you can't generate positivity. Positivity to negativity ratio is like having a strong balance sheet. You can't start to generate cash after your balance sheet has been shot. So you have to continuously have conservative and careful financial approaches in order to be able to withstand the attack when the attack comes. So that's the important point I wanted to make about corporate immunology.